years of bloodshed and chaos, a huge military force sweeps across the land. 7 great states and their vassals all yield to its immense grip on power. At its head sits the first emperor of China.
我希望这是我们最后的战役。
大王，我已经厌倦了战争，我现在应该卸甲归田。
末将愿为大王鞠躬尽瘁，死而后已。
对的，老朋友，你是可以告老还乡，还有你，我会如你所愿。今后我们的国家将会有一个新的开始，我们必须把过去的一切搁置一边。我们的氏族太关注你们两人，你们就如同他们的父亲。 他们唯你们2人马首是瞻。可是，一个家庭只能有一个父亲，不然就会陷入混乱。我们征战的目的是为了结束乱世。再见了，我的老朋友。你们所做的一切。 都是为了我们的国家。去吧，我会把你们效力的一切铭记在心。
The first emperor's vision of a unified China would remain in one form or another for the next 2,000 years, twice as long as the English monarchy. And in this time, China continued to develop an astonishing legacy of discovery and invention. It has been said that more than half the modern world is built on inventions or discoveries by the Chinese. Compared to ancient Egypt or Babylon, China is young, yet China's tradition of centralized power enabled it to adapt and survive through to the modern age. However, most people outside China understand little of its story. The secrets of that story were first uncovered in 1943 by a young English scholar, Joseph Needham. Westerners mostly assume that the modern world is entirely a Western creation. But one man's extraordinary body of work reveals some astonishing discoveries.
Joseph Needham was the man who discovered the history of science in China. He discovered that China had been one of the most creative and interesting areas of the world in terms of science and technology before the scientific revolution. He went to China during the war to do scientific liaison work, and it was there he formed the idea of coming back to Cambridge after the war and writing a short book about the history of science in China. And at the moment, 24 volumes have been published so far. There's 4 more to go.
The Chinese are responsible for developing essential resources upon which our modern world is now built. Modern shipping, the modern oil industry, and perhaps even more influential, modern agriculture. These innovations were made hundreds, if not thousands of years before they arrived in Europe or the Middle East. But why was it the Chinese who made so many of these early discoveries? Others, like the Romans and Greeks, made great contributions to human power over the natural world. But before the Industrial Revolution, none compared to the legacy of China.
One of the biggest questions of world history is why some peoples developed more rapidly civilizations than did other peoples. In order to develop civilization, you need at the beginning food to feed lots of people and to produce food surpluses who can then feed those kings and geniuses and inventors and other people.
As in many other parts of the world, farming started in China around 10,000 BC. Ancient records show how Chinese rulers tried hard to increase agricultural production, which was the ultimate source of wealth and security. Early Chinese society saw ordinary people as production units belonging to the ruler. From about 2,000 years ago, Chinese kingdoms began to expand southwards into warmer, wetter lands. By 1000 AD, the center of their economy lay in the south, where highly organized irrigation was key to producing vast amounts of rice to feed an ever-growing population. Efficient cooperation was essential to sustain society, and their fundamental desire was to establish unity throughout the land. Perhaps then, it was this ability to generate a food surplus, coupled with a strong central government, that enabled new ideas to spread rapidly throughout the country.
It's no wonder that China got a head start on food production 9,500 years ago, and then already had state government 4,000 years ago and writing 3,000 years ago. The opposite pole is Aboriginal Australia. Australia had no animal that has been domesticated yet. It did not have domesticated plants, and the result is then that Aboriginal Australians remained hunter-gatherers, whereas the Chinese leapt forward and got a head start towards developing one of the world's great civilizations.
The Aboriginal people of Australia mastered living in a harsh environment and gained a unique spiritual understanding of the world around them that continues to this day. And they've been doing this for nearly 50,000 years. That makes them the oldest surviving culture on Earth. But in that time, they neither developed science or agriculture, but did understand how to survive in the desert and flourish on a primitive set of tools. Tools for the hunter-gatherer. In contrast, the ancient Greeks developed many of the intellectual tools for understanding our world and became the fathers of Western thought. But while the Chinese pursued unity, Greek society placed an emphasis on the rights of the individual, and there was a reason for this. Much of Greece is peninsular. Large, irregular areas of land, many islands, surrounded and separated by the Mediterranean and the Aegean Seas. Large-scale agriculture just wasn't possible. Only about 1/5 of the land in Greece is suitable for habitation and farming. Much of that exists in fertile pockets that are isolated. The first ancient communities were attracted to these areas and therefore grew independently of any centralized control.
These isolated, relatively individualistic activities is what gave Greeks the luxury of not paying that much attention to other people and paying attention to what it was they wanted to accomplish. They had substantially greater freedom because of the economic base. And these legacies remain today.
Unlike China, ancient Greece didn't need an elaborate administration to make the economy work efficiently. In these scattered communities, independent thought and competition flourished. so political unification did not come naturally. But geographical factors weren't the only reason ancient China flourished. There was a deeply rooted philosophy that instilled order and unity into Chinese society. Of all China's great thinkers, perhaps it is Confucius who still has the greatest influence today.
Confucius was concerned primarily with the proper relationships of human beings to one another. He was concerned with family, with the relationship that was proper between the emperor and the citizen, and he was very concerned with the proper respect toward elders.
His teachings have survived for over 2,500 years, and even today, the 28th of September is remembered as his birthday.
皇帝渴望美好，那人们就美好。如果把皇帝的道德表率比作是风，那人们就是草，风吹自然草动。
谢谢先生，学生告辞了。
Falling in line with society's rules became more important than the desire of the individual.
Arthur Miller once said that the Chinese invented family, and that's not a bad way to think about the way Confucius thought, about the legacy that he gave to China today.
Cooperation and unity within the family was at the root of ancient Chinese culture. And those values can still be seen. The Mo family lives in Guangxi province in southern China, an isolated rural area hundreds of miles from Shanghai. Traditional values here are very different from life in the West.
We have been living here for hundreds of years. It was handed down from our ancestors. I'm about 40 years old and I love this place. My body is strong because here we have good feng shui, the air is good, and everything is better than the outside world. We really treasure our homeland, which was handed down from our ancestors.
As the eldest son, Mo Bo Ling takes care of family affairs.
My family name is Mo. In my family, there are about 50 to 60 people. They are all my brothers. We farm, plant some tobacco, are stone cutters too. Do some trading, plant some crops. We have all kinds of crops.
The family's patriarch, Mo Bo Ming, best reflects their Confucian values.
Our ancestors came from Henan, moved to Hebei, then to Shandong, and then moved here over 300 years ago. We all did different things. Some of us were teachers, some officers, some farmers, some businessmen. But whatever we did, it was our tradition to help each other out.
Family life has always been extremely important in Chinese culture. In the rural south, as many as 100 or more relatives may live together under the rule of the oldest male. The ideal is 5 generations under one roof. Relationships within families were extremely formal. The younger generation were expected to know their place in society, show unquestioning obedience, and to give the family name a good reputation.
We are having the reunion dinner. Our family is just like this, one big family, joining together to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival. We usually cook chicken, we worship ancestors, and then we are ready for dinner. That's our tradition, a big family. Men and women are separated. Men are here, and the women are on the other side.
Just as Confucian teaching is still alive in 2,000 years of family tradition, the way Confucius saw the world was strikingly different from the West.
它是白的，
它是黑的，你眼睛瞎了吧？
那毛是白的，可能因为你看到它时它在暗处。
它是黑的，那可能你看到的时候它喝醉了呢。
不，
你们二人
它就是白的。
在为何事争吵啊？
我在古塘看到一只猫，一只非常漂亮的猫。他看到同样的一只猫，却非说它是黑色的。同一只猫不可能既黑又白的。
就为这一点争论得如此激烈，有意义吗？
当然有意义了，因为事情至关重要。
如果说这只猫，它可以捉老鼠，尽其本分，至于它是什么颜色，又有什么问题？争执是为了达到共识。一个固执己见的人是不可能改变他人的看法的，啊。
Whereas Western logic is more linear, for the Chinese, the willingness to tolerate contradiction and take a more relative view still marks a very different way of thinking. In terms of culture, one of the most striking differences can be seen in the discovery of natural gas.